Hey folks, just wanted to put a little bit of a vlog out here as I recently got done hosting Tournament Central for the Preserve Championship out on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I also hosted Tournament Central for the final round of the Dynamic Disc Open a couple of weeks ago. And so I kind of just wanted to give, my thoughts on getting to work with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and hosting that show and kind of maybe what the future holds for me working with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and disc golf media in general, and maybe also give some updates around this channel as we've gained almost 100 new subscribers over the last few weeks on this YouTube channel. So the growth has been really awesome. I know that the goal was really, chasing the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I hit just over 900 not that long ago, and I got kind of a little bit of a boost in subscribers to the channel since, doing some stuff with Foundation, with the debate night talk show, and with the work I've been doing with the Disc Golf Pro Tour lately. And there's been some attention coming to the channel because of that, as well as, to my Twitter and Instagram, which, by the way, if you're not following me there and you want to keep up to date on stuff, it's just @followdust on Twitter and Instagram, links down below. And then other than that, you can find the content that I'm doing here. For those of you who are new to the channel and don't really know much about me real quick, I'm a guy who is kind of an esports industry veteran, I guess you could say. I guess it depends on who you ask. I've worked in the esports industry in some form or fashion since probably like 2008, 2009. Started doing paid work in the esports space as a commentator and content creator around 2011. And then around 2015 or 2016, I kind of turned it into an actual job. I have worked in the Counter-Strike franchise, so that's 1.6, Source, and CSGO. And, of course, Counter-Strike 2 is right around the corner if you're into PC gaming or anything like that. And then most recently, I've been working a lot over the last 2 to 3 years in the Valorant space, which is a game made by Riot Games, the same company that made League of Legends. And I do a lot of the North American scene stuff, and right now I'm actually commentating the Ascension tournament for the Americas region to see what team will get promoted into the partnered league for next year. So definitely been doing a lot of stuff in the esports space. I have, experience in the esports industry as a play-by-play commentator, a color commentator, an interviewer, content creator, all of the above basically. Really, the only thing I haven't really done much of in esports is hosting, funnily enough, which is actually what I wound up doing with Tournament Central for the Preserve and for the final round of DDO. Now, if you didn't know, I also have done disc golf work in the past. Essentially, when I started getting involved as a player in disc golf a couple of years ago, I wanted to see, obviously, if I could take the skills and experience I have from being a commentator in the esports space and try to bring that into the disc golf space because, those are kind of my two passions right now. And so obviously I'd like to marry them if possible. And, at first I kind of got shut down on all fronts, which was understandable. I was just some random new kid off the block that no one had ever heard of that had really no type of, I don't know what the right word would be, just really no credibility, I guess you could say, in the disc golf scene. I was just some random man who played and had a YouTube channel. And yeah, sure, I did all this commentary and stuff in esports, but disc golf is very different in esports, obviously. And eventually, though, I was able to get with Jamie Thomas from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and I got to script and host a show that was post-produced called The Scramble for the entirety of the 2022 season for all the elite events and majors. And it was basically a tournament recap series where I just kind of told the story of the tournament, both FPO and MPO. It was about 30 minutes long each episode. It was a pretty cool show. Unfortunately, it wound up getting canceled in their media plans for 2023, and so that kind of left me off to the side for a while as far as the Disc Golf Pro Tour was concerned. And then, of course, last year I also commentated for Gatekeeper Media as their play-by-play commentator for the vast majority of the season. I was working alongside Nathan Queen most of the time, but at times I'd work with Nick Hansen. And yeah, I was just doing feature card stuff for round one and then chase card for MPO for the rest of the rounds for, virtually every elite or higher event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour from probably like April or May time frame all the way through the end of the year. And then unfortunately that also kind of fell apart at the beginning of 2023 just due to the fact that they didn't really want to work with me remotely because they had people with them on the road that they could work with directly in person, which was just easier for them. And there's some other stuff there that I'm not going to touch that kind of made that situation the way that it is where I'm not working there anymore. But regardless, at the beginning of 2023, I found myself in kind of a weird place, if I'm just being like kind of candid, where I had felt like I had broken in to the disc golf space by, very quickly being able to get involved with doing work directly with the Disc Golf Pro Tour with the show I was hosting on DGN and then getting to do post-produced coverage for the chase car for MPO for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I went from basically not being involved in disc golf at all to kind of being thrown in the fire and getting to do quite a lot of stuff at the top level, and it was pretty awesome. You know, it felt like I was really kind of working my way up, so to speak. And then when everything kind of got, I don't want to say taken away from me, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but you get what I mean. When I come into 2023 and now I'm no longer not doing anything with the professional disc golf space other than, you know, just doing the content that I do on this channel, you know, me playing casual rounds or practice rounds or tournament rounds or doing disc reviews and, you know, all those things. Outside of that, I wasn't really doing anything in disc golf for the first 6 months of the year. And so I really felt like I had dropped back down to square one. And it was really disheartening, honestly, because, you know, again, like I do a lot of stuff in the esports space, and that I guess is kind of my main gig. But at the end of the day, I still am a freelancer, and the amount of income I earn is totally based on the amount of gigs I'm able to line up. And, you know, the esports space is very competitive. The amount of work I do in that space is somewhat limited. And so expanding into disc golf was going to be great because it allowed me to, you know, do both things that I love at the same time and, you know, get more work out of it and hopefully be able to truly call being a freelance commentator or whatever you want to call it a career as opposed to kind of a side hustle, which is kind of what it feels like right now, which is scary considering that I'm like, you know, about to turn 33 years old and I still feel like, you know, I don't really know where I'm headed. But that's a story for a different day. I don't mean to turn this into some type of sob story or mope around in front of you, but that's just me, you know, being transparent. And, you know, it was awesome to get the call. You know, I had been slotted to host the Tournament Central show for the Preserve for about a month or so. So I had been kind of sitting on that for a while, knowing that that was going to happen, but obviously couldn't really say anything. You know, had to wait until everything was official, contract was signed, and I was actually on air. But the DDO one kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of a curveball. You know, I basically got asked to fill in last minute for that one. That was not expected. And that was crazy because I basically just got thrown into the fire because, again, I don't really have much experience hosting live. You know, like I said, I hosted a show for DGN, but that was post-produced. So if I mess something up when it comes to, you know, reading off a line from the script or, you know, throwing to a segment incorrectly or coming back from a segment incorrectly, if my wording's a little off or a little rough or something like that, I can go back and fix it. You know, live hosting, you can't fix it. You're on the spot and you have to be sharp. You know, hosting is very different than commentary, I guess. Commentary is a lot more free-flowing, and there's a lot more breathing room. You know, yeah, you have the responsibility to respect what you're covering and to, you know, discuss what's happening and to cover the action and to, as a play-by-play guy, obviously kind of tell the story of what's going on in the tournament and, you know, call the shots, so to speak. And then obviously as a color commentator, which I do a lot in esports, it's kind of my main role in esports actually, you know, you're trying to bring insight, you're trying to bring analysis, you're trying to add that extra context to make things seem grander. You know, you're trying to maybe teach the viewer something or maybe bring their attention to something they may not have noticed that is actually quite important. You know, when in the esports side, it's more about tactics and strategy of how teams, you know, control a certain area of a map or how they attack a certain area of the map or how they defend it or, you know, things like that. I know it's going to be kind of hard for people who don't know much about esports and stuff, but, you know, a lot of times strategy and stuff in esports is kind of like speed chess where you're having to make very rapid decisions and you're having to have, you know, crazy reaction speed and you're having to, you know, do this on the fly to be able to be victorious and to come out on top. And a lot of it is, you know, a lot of specialized mechanics that you wouldn't really know if you're not an esports person, but I think anyone can kind of maybe respect the idea of trying to outgame your opponent, outthink them, try to make better decisions than them. And so as a color commentator, you really kind of come in and explain the decision making that's taking place and explain the type of strategy that that team or player likes to implement and to what to look out for and what to watch out for. And color commentary in disc golf is very much about, you know, analyzing, you know, a player's shot. How are they attacking the course? Are they hitting the right landing zones? Are they making the right decisions as opposed to where they're at on the leaderboard and what they need to do to climb it? And, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, obviously I'm not an expert in disc golf, so I would probably never really fill the color role in that regard. I would be more of the play-by-play guy calling the shots, which is what I did, you know, post-produced with Gatekeeper Media. And that was kind of live because it was one take. So it felt very similar to being live, though it was post-produced when I was doing that. But hosting is its own different beast because there isn't as much breathing room. You know, every segment is very timed out. You know, you only have so much time to get through each topic before you need to get to the next one, before you need to get to the next commercial break, before you need to throw to an interview that a player did that was pre-recorded. or, throw to someone who's live out on the course, or whatever the case may be. Like, the segments are very like regimented, if that's the right word, just very locked in. And so, you only get one chance to intro the show. You only get one chance to intro your co-host. You only get one chance to ask them the right question to discuss a certain topic, and you only get one chance to smoothly throw to a break and to smoothly come back from it and to smoothly throw to one segment to the next. And it's just different, it's not something that I've ever done before in the esports space. I mean, I have all these years of experience doing commentary, but the one thing I didn't do was hosting. That's the one thing I got asked to do for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So it was kind of funny in that way. And, the big thing about DDO was, with the Preserve, I had multiple days to kind of like slowly get more comfortable and get a little bit more polished with each thing I had to do. But with DDO, I was being thrown into the final round of an elite tournament. Not only that, but then I found out like kind of last minute that, not only are you like hosting the show, but you're also doing the winners interviews at the end. So I interviewed, obviously, Haley King after she won DDO, and then later in the day, I interviewed Parker Welk, which I got a little bit lucky on the Parker Welk one because I actually knew Parker Welk because he had competed in a local tournament to me, before he went to the Music City Open. So I actually got to speak to him and talk to him and kind of understand him a little bit, understand his game. So I had like a little bit of something to work with there when I did the post round interview with him. And it was also just such like a special underdog story that it was like pretty easy to do that interview. The story kind of told itself in that regard. I didn't really have to do much work to help that one along. It was just an incredible situation. So yeah, it was a lot, but I tried my best to come prepared. Like, I had an idea on what players they wanted to focus on. Obviously you're kind of focusing on last week's winners or just people who are ranked very highly. And so I kind of had an idea of what players would be focused on. And so I was able to, do my research, put some notes together, be prepared, speak to their results, their recent form, what their strengths are, what some of their weaknesses might be, where they're at statistically speaking when it comes to like UDIS World Rankings and DGPT standings, and what their Circle 1 regulation is, or their Circle 2 regulation, or their C2 putting, or like fairway hits. Like, I was able to do the research to, be somewhat prepared to speak on these people and then pose good questions, to my co-host, which was Terry Miller for DDO for that final round. And then, of course, Brian Earhart throughout the entirety of the Preserve. And yeah, it was just a very challenging experience to do such a different role than what I'm used to, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Brian was awesome to work with. All the production crew behind the scenes at Disc Golf Network were a blast to work with, and really helped me out, and were always like very reassuring, that I was doing a good job, and you're doing fine, don't worry about it. Like, if I had like a little hiccup here or there or something like that, they were always like really helpful to help me just move along. And a lot of it that people don't realize when you're hosting a show like that is you have a producer constantly in your ear, and sometimes they're changing things up on the fly because they have to, because of like a time constraint, or like, I think one of the big examples is that just to give you like a fun one, is we were obviously doing little recaps of the Swedish Open during the Preserve. And so Macbeth had obviously won MPO. And so originally in the show, we were going to show some highlights of Paul Macbeth, and I was going to talk through them. It was like already scripted out. And then all of a sudden, when they threw that video, it was incorrect. It was only like his putt on hole 18 and none of the other stuff. So the script immediately got washed on the fly as the clip came in, and the producer's like, I'm sorry, I only have 18. And then I had to like completely recalibrate what I was going to say. And then also originally we didn't get Paul Macbeth's interview in time to be able to air it, like his winner's interview. And so originally we weren't going to throw to that interview. I was just going to immediately start going into discussion about Paul Macbeth with Brian before we got back into talking about the Preserve. And then all of a sudden, as I'm kind of talking through that putt on 18 and kind of discussing Macbeth's win, all of a sudden in my ear, it's like, oh, we had the Macbeth interview now. Hurry, quick, throw to it. And then it's like on the fly, I have to be like, oh, okay, and transition to throw into an interview that Macbeth gave, and then come back from it, and then kind of get back into the rhythm of what was already on our show rundown. So it's just little things like that that it kind of happen behind the scenes that most people don't know about, where, I'm having to do things on the fly or quickly change, and that's a lot different. That's a skill that you develop as a host, whereas as a commentator, you really don't have to worry about those things. You're just covering what's on screen. When they tell you to go to break, you go to break. And it's really simple. There's not a whole lot of technical stuff going on there. It's more about just being technical about how you cover the action on the screen, as opposed to, the different transitions that take place, and have them produce in your ear and having to change things up on the run of show on the fly and things of that nature. So it was definitely a challenging experience, and At times, you know, because I'm not used to it, I would stumble on my words a little bit. And a lot of people maybe would wonder, like, man, why is he struggling to get through this sentence? Well, it's because mid-sentence, I just got told I need to change to something else, or that something has been tweaked that we need to get to. And, you know, there's just... I think a lot of people out there would be a lot more sympathetic towards broadcasters if they really understood the different things that we deal with behind the scenes, whether that be, you know, being asked to, you know, change up completely what the game plan was to something else on the fly, you know, technical issues where all of a sudden we can't hear something we need to hear, or we can't see something, like our image gets blurry, or we get disconnected, or, you know, just the different technical issues that can happen when you're doing stuff over the internet, or like a power outage, or, you know, software crashing, or whatever the case may be. People just don't realize sometimes that when things sound a little messed up, or maybe things don't feel as smooth, there's probably something going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of that's causing that to happen. And so that's why, you know, I think if people knew that, maybe they would be a little bit more sympathetic or empathetic, or whatever you want to call it, when it comes to those sorts of things. But anyway, that just kind of wanted to talk through. I mean, I had an absolute blast. You know, again, I felt like with the Preserve, unlike DDO, where I kind of got thrown into it very quickly in the final round, with Preserve, I was able to kind of slowly get more and more comfortable as each segment passed, and I had multiple chances to kind of, you know, work through some things and kind of get reps in and get more smooth and more fluid and more comfortable with delivering, you know, the different segments and things of that nature that we did. I thought the winners' interviews went really well with Katrina Allen and Ricky Wysocki. I felt like I was able to develop some good questions and have a good rapport with them, and that was awesome. And yeah, hopefully I'll do some more hosting for Tournament Central in the future. I'd totally love to. At this point, I'm not sure if it will or not, but it seemed like the production staff were happy with what I did, and, you know, hopefully that leads to more stuff in the future. Also, I did get asked to commentate a Silver Series event live, which is kind of my big goal, is to commentate on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, you know, to be one of the live commentators that you see on the broadcast on YouTube or DGN, whatever the case may be, you know, whether you're watching the first round for free or whether you're watching the live coverage on DGN throughout the entire tournament. And I was finally going to get that chance, man. It was going to be actually the Kansas City Wide Open. I was going to be commentating, I think, with Brian Earhart and maybe Juliana Korver for FPO. And it just is so unfortunate that the offer came a little bit too late, where I was already booked and contracted to do something else. And obviously I'm not going to break a promise or a contract with something that I've already agreed to do. I'm just not that kind of person to, like, you know, snap off of one thing onto the other and leave someone disappointed or in a tough spot, even though I really wanted to do the disc golf live commentary for that event. So at the very least, it's reassuring that they're interested in me doing commentary in the future. And so hopefully the opportunity will come up again for something else that I can accept, and then maybe I'll even be doing some live commentary on this Golf Pro Tour. Either way, hosting Tournament Central was a really cool experience that I hope to get to do again. I also hope to maybe get to do some live commentary with disc golf, you know, with the Pro Tour down the line, and maybe eventually be able to get enough work doing disc golf stuff and esports stuff that I can call it a true career and feel comfortable and not feel like I'm constantly stressed out trying to figure out what the next job's going to be. Because actually, like, I'm in a spot right now where I'm booked through the rest of July for some esports stuff. Disc golf wise, though, I have no idea what's next. Esports wise, after July, I have no idea what I'm going to do once August rolls around. So that's just the stress of being a freelancer and all that jazz. But either way, I just want to kind of give my take on, you know, working the Disc Golf Pro Tour and just kind of what's going on with me. Again, content will continue on here as normal, you know, and I really appreciate all the new subs coming in and all the support for all the content. You know, be able to look out for some more casual and fun rounds and disc reviews. And I think I have another tournament that I'm going to play coming up at the end of August that I'll try to do some videos around. And I think I have like another one that I'm going to play in September. So definitely going to try to continue with the content on this channel as normal. You know, I'm always kind of on the lookout for ideas for new stuff to do. So obviously in the comments below, if you have any suggestions of content you'd like to see, feel free. Obviously you'll probably also still see me occasionally jump in and do the debate night with Foundation, and who knows what else down the line, honestly. But anyway, I appreciate all of you so much for tuning in to this video and for just supporting this channel and really just supporting me in general with my endeavors in disc golf, and for those of you who know me from esports, that as well. But that's going to do it. Don't want to make this video too long. Again, thanks so much, and catch you next time.